sip of you got, 'cause you're like water when I'm thirsty, yeah. Drink, drink. You're like water when I'm thirsty. Drink, drink. Hey. It's warm down here. It's hard to breathe. It's burning my eyes, Lord. So hard to see. I'm quite parched now. I need a saying. Come quench my thirst, Lord. Yes. You're like water for the thirsty. I drink, I drink. You're like water for the thirsty. I drink, I drink. You're like water for the thirsty. I drink, I drink. Water for the thirsty, yeah. I drink,
It's like water for the thirsty. Truthfully, our souls parched. You will find them when you seek them with your whole heart. It's so hard to stay consistent through the word I'm reading. 'Cause the time is coming soon when every eye gon' see him in the clouds above. This is about a love that quenches the thirst. What the world offers is not enough. Taste and see from this fountain spring, you'll be lining up to get a drink. Refreshing ink flowing out of cups. It's like they got a touch to liberate them out of cuffs. The faith is undivided trust created us up out of dust. He's worthy of fresh well of living water for the thirsty. Give her honor the first thing that I do when I'm waking up. It's everlasting life to all who decide to drink
you're
it up.
like water when I'm thirsty. Drink. You're like water when I'm thirsty. Drink. Like water when I'm thirsty. Drink. Drink. You're like water when I'm thirsty. Drink. Like water when I'm thirsty. Drink. You're like water when I'm thirsty. Drink.
Good night, everybody, and welcome to Water for the Thirsty. I'm Jared, and I'm here with our crew who's here to study, inquire, dialogue, apply, and share. With us tonight, it's supposed to be Ladies First Fridays, but it's not working out like that tonight. As you can see,
I didn't know that.
as you can see, we only have one lady for now, Anika.
I'm holding down the fort.
Fortunately.
And then, of course, you have, Kendrick, who comes to make Ladies First Fridays interesting. And first time on the couch is my brother and girl group member, Roland.
You invited me on a ladies' night.
No, I invited you on a First Friday. It just happened to be Ladies' Night. But nah, dude. We let the guys come on Ladies First. It just so happens that all the ladies seem to be available on Ladies First Friday, so we started calling it that.
Gotcha.
For those of you who are joining us for the first time, we're some people who are trying to know Jesus for ourselves better. And we're reading a Bible reading plan that you can get at waterforthethirsty.com. And we read, we study, we inquire, we ask questions, we dialogue about it, we look for application, and we share what we have with each other and in our lives. Come on in. I think that, yeah. We just wait on Z to come on in.
Hey.
No, you good. You good. Yeah, this week was a little trying. Lots happening, and it's Z, let's sit on this side. Z and Kendrick next to one another. That should be interesting. I know you're excited
You
about
had to
that.
place me here.
Great.
You good?
You're welcome.
Yeah, where was I?
How you doing?
It was a trying week.
Oh yeah. I mean, well, today was a trying day, which will affect our light. The light switches on the wall here. As you can see, there's a lot happening around us. It's not a formal environment. It's a living room.
Nor should it be.
Yeah. So
It's like there's always
Yeah.
black happening.
but we gonna get into it. Let me take a moment and breathe. It's good to see everybody. I've been looking forward to today for a long time. Looking forward to
Today or like
tonight. Water for the
tonight.
thirsty.
Oh,
Water for the
okay.
thirsty. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Water for the thirsty. I've been looking forward to that. And then when Roland was interested in coming on, I was like, ugh, that's gonna be fun. And then Anika decided she was willing to come in there. I was just like, all right, it's gonna be good conversation tonight. So I'm looking forward to it. We have been reading the New Testament, Galatians, Ephesians. Since the last time we got together, we've also been reading the story of David and Solomon and their family through the books of Samuel, Kings, and Chronicles. And of course, we've been reading Kenrick's favorite book, the Book of Psalms.
I haven't been touching that.
And this week we read the longest chapter in Psalms, 176 verses of Psalm 119.
Yeah.
We read it over 2 days.
No parts of that.
How did you enjoy it, Kenrick?
No parts of that.
You didn't enjoy it?
Don't do Psalms, man.
Oh, man.
It's not. I mean, I did a couple chapters this year.
Just a couple?
Yeah, nothing significant.
I bet you he's going to bring a word from Psalms for you today, just for you.
You think so?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Sing somewhere.
Roland,
Yes.
you know how we do it? Here?
No.
Okay, so.
That was gonna be my next
So
question.
we don't do topics.
Okay.
Like it's not a topical study. This is user driven. So as you read and are inspired, that's what we talk about. We talk about the thing that's interesting to you, that was frustrating to you, that was powerful for you, that was confusing for you, that was upsetting for you, and then we allow the conversation to go from there.
Okay.
That way it's valuable to you, and we only have to spend time on the things that are important to the individuals here. And because our perspective is diverse, the thing that was important to Anika is not the same thing that's going to be frustrating to you. We can help and share with each other. Maybe. You might have the same frustration. So I'm going to start with Kenrick so you can see what it looks
Oh my
like.
god.
I agree with him on Psalms though, because when you're doing the readings, like Psalms is like, it's like the last one, and it's the shortest, usually the shortest verse, except
Yeah.
for this week.
Yes.
But it is like the one that I always gets like left off.
It gets left off, and it doesn't rhyme.
It doesn't matter.
And their songs.
But I did do like a couple days, and I
Their
did
songs
stumble
don't-
like there are some real gems in Psalms for sure. But
So let him go.
Nope.
Like he's talking
Nope.
about gems.
Give them a chance to see what it looks like.
Yeah,
You know,
I gotta see
modeling
what it
for,
looks like.
modeling for him.
So, all right, fine. So, are Gentiles the same as sinners?
Gentiles are anybody who's not Jews. Anybody who's not a Jew.
Because that's not the way
It's a
Paul
Gentile.
explains it.
You know, like in your, in your faith group, you have people and then non-people. You know, like that. That's what
Yeah.
Gentiles are. Gentiles are non-people.
All right, so then,
Does that
yeah, I know what you're talking about.
right?
Yeah, I don't know what my faith group is,
I was gonna say,
but
Your faith community, yeah.
yeah, but whatever that is.
Yeah, yeah. People and non-people.
Yeah. So I'm trying. So I think it was in chapter 4 of Ephesians. If I can find it. And he's going through, and the way he's describing Gentiles, there's not. It's like everybody that doesn't worship God.
you said Ephesians.
Yes, because everybody who is not Jewish is not worshiping God from the Jewish understanding.
Okay, so he's speaking from.
With a Jewish understanding, yes. Yes.
Who is he talking to? He's talking to the people of Ephesians, who
Yes.
are, or Ephesus, who are
A mixed group.
Okay.
Primarily Gentiles, but a mixed group nonetheless.
All right, because as I was reading, I was like, pretty sure I'm a Gentile.
You are. 100%.
But like, he was dogging me out. And I was like, some of this is true, But like, I was offended.
Why were you offended? What were you offended by specifically?
Hold on, I'm trying to pull the verses up. No one else felt this way?
It depends on what you were offended by. You know, you haven't said what you were offended by. We just
Not the immorality and sexual impurity and all that stuff. I wasn't offended. It was. Was that
just to clear that up.
just to make sure? Oh my gosh. Unity of body. Where is it? Sorry guys.
17?
Huh?
Around 17?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about. Verse 17.
From there, anyway.
Yeah. So verse
19.
17 goes with the Lord's authority. So Ephesians 4:17, with the Lord's authority I say this. Live no longer as Gentiles do.
Mhm.
So one.
How do Gentiles live?
But they're you don't want to live like Jews? Right?
Right? So we created a new category.
You can only, but they're only Jews and Gentiles.
And we created a new category.
What's the new category? Christian?
Followers in the way. They're not Jews.
So why did he say don't live like Gentiles or Jews?
Because he was talking about specific types of behavior.
Okay. So with the Lord's authority, I say this: live no longer as Gentiles do, for they are hopelessly confused. Their minds are full of darkness. They wander far from the life God gives, because they have closed their minds and hardened their hearts against Him. That doesn't sound like Gentiles. That sounds like Jews.
No, Gentiles too. Gentiles
Not
too.
Jews today, though. Like,
No,
I like
not
Jews
Jews today. Just yeah.
Yeah, I like Jews today.
Go back
As
to
a disclaimer.
Go back to the chapter. Well, tell me what chapter it is. Ephesians 4?
Ephesians 4, verse 17.
Okay. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Sorry, 17 and 18. We were into 18. Their minds are full of darkness. They wander far from the life God gives, because they have closed their minds and hardened their hearts against Him. They have no sense of shame. They live for lustful pleasure and eagerly practice every kind of impurity.
Yeah.
So that's not necessarily Jewish.
No.
But everything before that was. I'm just curious as to why he's singling out Gentiles.
Because
He's only speaking to them because they know that.
Yes, because that's how
He's
they used to
referencing
live.
that because they... Okay.
Okay. Don't live like how you used to live before you came to Jesus, is what he said.
Okay.
And other people who, where you came from.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. That was easy.
So
Is
he's
he
like,
still offended?
No.
I think so. I'm sorry. I'm continuing to read. I feel like verse 20 almost answers that question.
So you saying I only read two verses? or 18, 19 verses. What does verse 20 say that clearly I didn't read?
No, I didn't say.
No, that's what you-
Mike says Jewish leaders were not leading Jews in the way.
Jewish leaders were not leading Jews in the way.
I think he was
Correct.
Yes.
That's why I said verse 20
Uh-huh.
and 21 almost answer that, because it says however is not the way of life you learned when you heard about Christ and were taught in Him when you were taught in Him in accordance with the truth that is in Jesus.
Okay.
I'm saying like that's not the way that they were living, is not what they were taught. They weren't living the way that they were taught to live. And he's saying like put off what you were doing and live the way that you were taught to live.
Yeah. And don't regress into your former way of living. The Gentile way of living. The darkened way of living.
Okay. So we as Gentiles
We as people
shouldn't live as Gentiles.
right.
Okay.
We should live as
Everybody got
followers of the way.
Yes.
Correct.
and it
And then we won't be Gentiles anymore.
So Gentiles are... So Gentile is equivalent to sinner.
Gentiles would be, because all are sin, I would not
Sure.
use that label.
Okay.
Right?
Evil.
Gentiles
accepting
would
Christ?
be people who are not following the one true God.
So we're not Gentiles.
We are not now Gentiles. Depends on who you're talking about as we. Like you and me, because we believe in the way.
Well, believe in doing is... yes.
Correct. No, then we're not Gentiles anymore.
Okay.
the believers, sons of Abraham now, inherited, sons of
But
God,
not Jews.
but not Jews.
Okay.
So then, is it before accepting Christ?
Yes,
So you're a Gentile before you accept Christ.
correct. In the context of
Paul.
how Jewish people defined people. According to Jewish people, you had two classes of people:
So that's my thing.
Jews and everybody else.
Why are we looking at it from the eyes of Jews? Or their perspective? Like, why are we looking through
The-
those lenses?
Because
Don't we need new lenses?
correct. But to Paul, who's writing in a specific time, he's writing in a context where a way of living came out of the Jewish way of living. Right?
Okay.
It's rooted in that. And because it has so much of that influence, that worldview is impacting the conversation.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So we're not Gentiles because we believe
Correct.
in God, in Jesus.
Right.
But we were Gentiles.
Yes.
Layla could be a Gentile.
Correct.
Okay.
Could be a Gentile.
Okay.
She might benefit from your covering.
Okay. I just want to be clear when I talk to her tomorrow.
By these definitions, yes.
Okay.
Really?
So for this too, so when I read it, and your point is good. I mean, I didn't think about it that way until you said it, but how I read it is basically sounds like they're describing a type of person, and it's basically saying don't be like that type of person,
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
and that's how I read it. But again, when we dug deeper, I could see where you're coming from in the details of it. But I basically read it as they're these futile in their thinking and darkened and ignorant, and they harden their hearts. Don't be like that
Correct.
person. And I think about this too is like when people say God, depending on that person, you don't know who they're talking about. So God for me is who I connect God to be, and that's how I looked at it. Is with the Gentiles, it's almost like a type of person.
The interesting thing, though, is that these Gentiles, they believed in gods.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not that they weren't spiritual people. They just didn't believe in the one true God, which is why I made that distinction. They weren't worshippers exclusively of the one true God.
So
And
like
so
all African Americans aren't in the same category. Like
Correct.
what you're saying, we all we're individuals within that
We're all Gentiles.
description.
Correct.
But then to me, it sounds like then, because you go down and it says, therefore each of you must put off falsehood and speak truthfully to your neighbor. It's like we rotate then. We go back and forth.
A little bit.
Wait,
We live as Gentiles, even though
Verse
we might not be
25.
Gentiles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So sometimes we go,
Yes. And they were going back and forth.
Which is that's pretty much the letter.
You're saying, come back.
Yeah.
You're going too far, come back.
Yeah.
Don't go back that way.
so then we can't say we're no longer.
Psh, I don't go back.
Yeah, you do.
I do.
Well, again, I look at it like African Americans. We all fit that description here, but we might be on different. We might do things differently, but it doesn't necessarily mean we're not African American anymore. You know what I mean? Like you may view it that way, and that's not going to make me now outside of that description. I'll still be African American, even though we are doing different things. Or Christian, shouldn't say.
So we're
African.
all Gentiles.
So we're right. That's what I'm saying. At the end of the day,
Pastor
we
Jared.
still are.
So, because Gentile is a term to describe non-Jews, if you're not a Jew, technically, from a Jewish perspective, you are a Gentile. Because it's really just saying non-Jew. Instead of saying non-Jews, we've given it a name, Gentiles. But they were more like Greek-speaking people of
Okay.
the day.
So is everybody else.
Everybody else.
So the Jews didn't go back and forth. Is that what they're trying to say?
The Jews did do things that were Gentile like, but they identified everybody who didn't carry the name Jew and wasn't circumcised Gentile. It's kind of like in your faith. Everybody who is not
Your faith.
is a non your faith.
You said your faith to him also. Are we? You're just saying that it is a general.
We have a diverse audience of people,
Gotcha.
and so I didn't want to single out any one.
Gotcha.
faith.
Gotcha. I was like, I think we all go to the same place. But I got you now. So, like, I didn't know we were all doing different, but that makes sense.
I am. Okay.
I still don't know what you were offended by, though. I still don't know what you were offended by.
No, just the fact that I consider myself a Gentile, and he's like coming at like, yeah, like be easy, man. Like we're just getting to know each other again.
But this is
So-
so.
Hmm?
Who's
Who Paul
Paul?
Yeah.
is going through? Yeah.
Paul.
Yeah. I just there's some things even when reading it, I'm still kind of like irk me. That was one of them.
I'm gonna come back to you for another one in a little bit. Z? What stood out to you? What spoke to you? What did you wrestle with this week?
I had a frustration
Uh-uh.
with God and Asa.
Uzzah.
Mm.
Tell us more.
I had a couple frustrations actually. Maybe I'll start there. I mean, I was a little disturbed, and I'm seeing so was David, because David was also kind of like, God, what are you doing? Like, you know what I mean?
Oh, he was angry.
Why kill the man though? Like, to me, the
He
man.
touched it.
Did he tell them not to touch it?
Of
Yeah.
course. From before.
Everybody knows that.
Everybody knew that. And he especially, because he
You
was.
walk up and touch that table up front and see what happens.
But did he have to? Did he have to kill him? I was a little. I felt like it was harsh for him to just
Fine. Where was that?
kill him 2 times. Actually, it was in there 2 times. I read it 2 times.
So, I think one was today,
Yeah, it was.
right? It
Yeah,
was 13.
but then it was also
I think.
on.
That was First Chronicles 13 to 15.
Yeah, I think it was today's.
And then there was another one before that, though.
Oh, and then it
In
was
First Samuel.
While we look for it, can I ask a quick question? Am I tripping, or did David die, and then we start reading it again, and it like put us back in the story? Or am I tripping?
So, yes.
Somebody
You're
asked
not
that same
tripping.
question. Davina asked that same question.
I'm not tripping.
No, you're not tripping.
Okay.
So-
So I'm like, did he just die? And then we just started, and again, I'm like, wait,
So
back
you
in
have
the middle.
He
you
was
have
resurrected and came back.
you have 3 authors writing about the same guy.
So it wasn't Chronicles that we read before.
Yeah. So
So we're going back and forth between.
between the authors telling the stories.
Correct.
And so one author got to a place where he died, and we picked it up where this author covers some of the same material. So it's not that he's alive again, but just another author
Which is
telling
cool.
a
There's
different part of
different
the story.
perspective. Different
Yeah.
perspectives.
Yeah, I realized that we switched out of the one book into the next, but I thought it was the same exact book that we read before, but I didn't fact check that. So
No,
it
no.
probably is just a different writer.
Yeah, it's just a different writer
Yeah.
telling different parts of the same story. So yeah,
I think it was 14.
it's 13. So First Chronicles 13.
Is it 13?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we're reading from 7. Go ahead, Z.
They moved the Ark of God from Abinadab's house on a new cart with Asa and Ahio guiding it. David and all the Israelites were celebrating with all their might before God, with songs, with harps, lyres, timbrels, cymbals, and trumpets. When they came to the threshing floor of Kidron, Asa reached out his hand to steady the ark, because the oxen stumbled. The Lord's anger burned against Asa, and he struck him down because he had put his hand on the ark, so he died there before God.
Yeah, it's a little extreme.
Where else is this story?
Just kidding.
It's I felt that way, and I'm
It was
telling
So let's, while we're finding the other place, Anika, can you read Numbers chapter 4? Oh, you're there?
Yep.
Right. Numbers 4.
So the other thing was he was
Read
in
4
Second
and verse
Samuel.
Yep, got it.
It was in 2 Samuel.
I don't think were we in Second Samuel this time?
Yeah, but 2 Samuel
really?
doesn't talk about Uzzah,
I think it does.
does it?
It was somewhere else.
Oh, man.
Second Samuel. About to Google that joint.
Where's Uzzah? Uzzah, go ahead, Anika.
After Aaron and his sons have finished covering the holy
Second Samuel
furnishings
6.
and all the holy articles, and when the camp is ready to move, only then are the Kohathites to come and do the carrying. But they must not touch the holy things, or they will die. The Kohathites are to carry those things that are in the tent of the meeting.
So,
Second Samuel 6 talks about it.
okay, let's read it. 2 Samuel chapter 6.
So verse 1, then David gathered all the elite troops in Israel, 30,000 in all, and he led them to Baalah of Judah to bring back the ark of God, which bears the name of the Lord of heaven's armies, who is enthroned between the cherubim. They placed the ark of God on a new cart and brought it from Abinadab's house, which was on a hill. Uzzah and Ahio, Abinadab's sons, were guiding the cart that carried the ark of God. Ahio walked in front of the ark. David and all the people of Israel were celebrating before the Lord, singing songs and playing all kinds of musical instruments, lyres, harps, tambourines, castanets, and cymbals. But when they arrived at the threshing floor of Nacon, the oxen stumbled, and Uzzah reached out his hand and steadied the ark of God. Then the Lord's anger was aroused against Uzzah, and God struck him dead because of this. So Uzzah died right there beside the ark of God. David was angry because the Lord's anger had burst out against Uzzah. He named the place Perez Uzzah, which means to burst out against Uzzah, and it is called that to this day.
All right. Also read Anika, Exodus 19:22.
Okay, sorry. I was reading another one. Exodus what?
19:22. I'm just setting up a precedent and an understanding of how God sees certain things.
Even the priests who regularly come near to the Lord must purify themselves, so that the Lord does not break out and destroy them. But Lord,
That's it. So God has a standard of a way He wants certain things done, and when you don't do it, He's established a consequence.
where did He establish that they should not touch the ark?
He said
It's
in Numbers
4.
Numbers 4.
That's what you
Numbers
just read.
4:15.
He said only this group of people
Kohathite.
supposed to do it. What happens after Uzzah touches the ark?
He does.
No, I mean,
No,
what happens? What does his death initiate?
Oh, like David is scared, and
And what does he do?
he then decides that he goes back and he asks him, like, he doesn't take it with him. He takes it somewhere else. He takes the
Well, it
ark.
describes his mental state at that point. With
He's scared.
he's scared, but it's like a whole new reverence that he develops for God
Right.
within that.
David didn't. Okay, so Uzzah died so that David can.
Yes.
Read First
He
Chronicles.
starts going.
First Chronicles. I'm gonna take you, but read First Chronicles 15, 11 to 15.
Yeah.
15. Verse 11. Then David summoned Zadok and Abiathar the priests, and Uriel, Asaiah, Joel, Shemaiah, Eliel, and Aminadab the Levites. He said to them, "You are the heads of the Levitical families. You and your fellow Levites are to consecrate yourselves and bring up the ark of the Lord, the God of Israel, to the place I have prepared for it. It was because of you the Levites did not bring it up the first time the Lord our God broke out in anger against us. We did not inquire of him, about how to do it in the prescribed way. So the priests and Levites consecrated themselves in order to bring up the ark of the Lord, the God of Israel. And the Levites carried the ark of God with the poles on their shoulders, and Moses had commanded in accordance with the with the word of the Lord.
What did you just read? What did you just hear?
So Asa is paying for everybody else because the way God had prescribed it. Like, I mean, I feel like it was a little harsh for him as the first time that this was
Let me
happening.
ask you a question.
as a-
What should have been done? Like, what would be your alternative? Like, lose a finger, lose that hand,
He could have
the arm.
struck him or something and still kept him alive, so that Asa could also learn from that.
Give him a play.
Leprosy.
You know what I mean? I feel like Asa also
That's
needed that
funny.
opportunity to learn, because here David is all of a sudden David shifts his countenance, right? Asa could have shifted his countenance as well. No,
He did.
But that would have.
he died.
He has no countenance.
would that have then made God a lie, kind of unbinded him from his word then? If he said, if you do this, then you die,
I'm gonna destroy you.
and then you don't, and then people see that.
What do you think about that?
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
So if God said you're gonna die if you do this thing, and you don't die, then it puts him against his word, which he can't. You know.
Well,
But God is merciful,
Yeah,
so
like,
I
there
would
could
not.
be mercy.
That's not against his character, because he's a merciful God. So I expect
mercy.
mercy from him.
Well, his character.
So you
In
had
his
me.
word,
I was with
though.
your argument till then.
his word.
Adam and Eve didn't die
You can't
right
expect
away.
mercy.
Thank you. Adam
You
and
can't-
Eve
He
didn't
never
die
said
right
you-
away.
He
But you
never
can't-
said you die right away. He said
So-
you
He didn't
surely
say
die.
You
you'll
can't
die
expect
right away.
mercy.
He
So
said
same
you'll
thing
die.
here. He never said they'll die right away. He never
thought
said
I
you'll
heard
die.
that.
Do you think
He
that
said
there
you
probably
die.
might have been something
He
else
said
with Asa?
you will die.
Do I think
Yeah.
what?
So
It could have been something else with Asa.
It's probably all in the same time frame for God.
Who do you mean something else? Like
A
he
year from 10 years from now for us, or immediately. It's probably the same.
He could have struck him so that Asa could learn
Why
from
did-
that, is how I feel. Because
why did
Asa hasn't
Asa-
seen this before.
Why did Asa try to save it?
Because the oxen stumbled.
But why?
He's trying to help. He's really
He
and
got
look at
reverence for the
he's
art.
look at what he's doing. He's really trying to help.
And
It's not
that's
like
where I
the dude is
can
doing
see where you
anything.
come from, because I'm
He's
like,
trying
yeah,
to-
he was
he's
trying to help keep it.
He's trying to help.
upright.
He's trying to
And
help
me, that's
God.
reverence.
He's
Like,
trying to help God.
He's not trying to help
No,
God.
he's
He's
just
just
making sure.
He's trying to help God.
no, he's not trying to help.
He's
God.
trying to help
He's trying
God.
to help the oxen.
He's-
He's
he-
he's looking at the oxen.
He's
like, oh,
like,
they just
God,
stumbled."
you're not big enough.
No, that's
I'm gonna
not-
catch this.
Asa doesn't really.
You're not paying attention. I got it. That's what he said.
I don't think that's what he's.
Could have been what he
So let me
said.
ask you this.
No,
Let me ask you this. You're a teacher, all right?
You're a teacher.
I
Let's,
was.
let's say you're a teacher, and you tell your class this assignment is due on X date, all right? And if you don't bring your assignment by X date, it's automatic failing grade. I'm not giving you any more grades for it. All right? If that date comes and people don't turn it in, and you give them a 0, are you unfair?
No, I'm not.
Exactly.
But, but all I'm saying is, see, I don't have no mercy. God has mercy. You know what I'm saying?
So let's say now you extend the date,
Right.
For one.
right? And people still don't bring it in.
Well, then definitely they will fail. But in this case, he didn't get that chance to say, "Look, don't do that again. In the meantime, I'm gonna cut your hand."
So how many people touched the ark before Uzzah did?
What do you mean?
How many people handled the ark? What's the story of the ark? How it ended up in Aminadab's house?
He got taken, right?
What does the Bible say? What does the story say?
It was like they it was.
gotta
I
go
might
back.
be wrong, and I'm on camera and I'm live, but I think that it got taken right in battle,
Mm-hmm.
and then it went there, and then it started like not poisoning,
Mm-hmm.
like it started to do bad things to whoever had it because they weren't supposed to have it, right?
Mm-hmm. And they kept moving around.
How many groups of people or individuals handled the ark inappropriately? Potentially handled the ark
lot.
inappropriately before Uzzah got struck down and died.
Man, so you had to come to Asa though.
A lot.
So you would say that God had mercy on all those individuals and then decided, here what?
Okay, so
This foolishness have to stop.
I think what disturbs me is the fact that even David then changes his own,
Yeah, that's good.
you know what I mean? How he changes. So in other words, even David didn't realize that at first until Asa dies.
Other
So
people.
how else do you draw to people's attention? To do something to catch their attention.
So Asa died so that David could see this.
Not just
Everybody
David.
else?
Not just David.
So I'm just saying.
So let me
like,
ask you a
God
question.
could've
So
just
so
struck
so
Asa
so what
somehow
was
so that
so
he could give him a chance.
so
to
you're
change.
saying so you're questioning God because he did
That's
what
not
he's
questioning God.
no well I don't know what you want to
Scoot
call
over
it,
this way.
but you have a problem with God. That's not better for you either.
No, go ahead.
No,
Go
I
ahead.
know too.
Go
So
ahead.
you have a problem with God because he did what he said.
I don't have a problem with God because he did what he said.
What do you have a problem with then?
If people had been mishandling it already, right?
Who was mishandling it though?
Everybody else
That wasn't told.
that wasn't told.
Oh.
No,
Yeah, it was the
They were
Philistines.
told.
It
The
was
Philistines weren't. They weren't told.
okay. So then, here comes Asa, and to me, I don't know. Maybe he wasn't the first one, and maybe God.
So do you question whether Uzzah knew?
Yeah, I question if
He knew.
Asa knew the severity of it. That's
What?
what
Outside
I
of-
No.
What does the verse
Like
say?
first
It says
first
that,
degree
or
death or
otherwise
second
you could
degree
destroy
death?
What does the verse say?
Like which
No, I
degree?
just feel like okay. So if come on now, so are we saying that Asa just decided to just be disobedient and just help? Because the way he moves because the oxen stumbled. He didn't try to do all that. Like naturally, your instinct, if something is about to fall, my natural instinct is to say, "Let me catch it."
You ever give Khalil a command, a set a rule to him and say, Khalil, don't do this?
Mm-hmm.
And then Khalil finds a justification and a good reason why he needed to do that?
All the time.
Uh-huh.
But you know what? I agree with where you're coming, because when I read it, I was like, man, that is harsh for him to die. Because the thing now, if it was like it wasn't stumbling, he just was like, oh, let me go up and put hands on it.
Right.
We'll try and turn it up a little bit, but let me know if it's better. Go ahead. Sorry.
What I was saying is I can see your point too, because I'm like, man, if he just went up and put hands on it, then yeah. But it was stumbling. He went up to try to catch it. But then what came to me as we were talking is like, man, was God really that upset because he truly knew that he knew better?
Mm-hmm.
And then how much with it, like on stuff that we know better. Like he should have known. Well, he known very well just what the rules and regulations are, and he did it, regardless of the justification. Because that's where I was. That's why I agree with you on like. But it was stumbling, and like you were saying, there's always a justification. Like, the devil about why he got kicked out of heaven. And all that. So there's always some type of justification. But regardless of the justification, the word was said, and his word can't come back. But then I think about myself on things that we know good and well, where we should be, what we should, you know what I mean. And then is God's anger truly burning? Is because he knows how much knowledge he has with regard to the thing. It wasn't just some random person that came up and put, like the Philistines or whatever. It was somebody who knew the rules. And that's my question now. Is that why he was boiling inside? Like why he was truly upset?
But see, this is my thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know better, right? And yet I do all kinds of foolishness.
You too?
Correct. So, and then I'm looking at Asa and I'm like,
So
God, that same mercy that you showed me, like you could have shown it to Asa maybe?
so
Because he could strike me and be justified.
do we
Because I know better.
do we lose like the true meaning of what mercy is? Like mercy can't be, back to the teacher's example, right? How bad of a teacher would I be if my if every time people do poorly on a test because they didn't study or do whatever, they're already expecting that there's going to be a retest. If that happens, at some point, people are going to be like, why study? Why study this time?
Or why submit my thing on time? He's gonna extend.
He's going to extend the date anyway. And so, I guess my thing is, if we always think that everyone should be extended mercy, it's no longer mercy. It's just
and it's at the
is.
discretion of the teacher to
Correct.
decide whether to extend the date or hold it fast.
And it's by mercy that they extend the date, but the mercy should not be expected.
But I imagine everything that you're saying and thinking that I'm partly on your side with is exactly how David was feeling.
Let me get some people from online. So Sharika says, "Puss and dog don't have the same luck."
That's Jamaican. We need to.
Puss is a word for
I know for.
cat.
Yes, that's what I was gonna say.
Cat and dog don't have the same luck.
That's what I was gonna say.
That's what I was going to
She goes on to say, just because everyone else seems to have gotten away with it, it doesn't mean it's right. To which Mike adds, wasn't there a warning to everyone that no one was to touch the ark except the priest? Well, actually not the priest, but the Kohathites.
Yeah, specifically. Yeah.
Everybody but them was supposed to touch it, which is what we read. And if you were Jewish, you knew that.
Yes.
You
Not
knew that.
Gentile.
Yes. So even the leaders were authorizing.
So why let it stumble?
So I wanted to thank you.
Why let it stumble?
Who let it stumble?
I actually wanted to say something about that.
That's a temptation. Why
No,
let it
So-
no. Can I comment on that?
Go ahead.
Because I was trying to actually find it back in Numbers. So it was just saying that they were supposed to carry it.
Exactly.
They were supposed to carry it, and the problem is I was reading this again. In Numbers, it says that where did they have it? They moved the ark of God. They moved the ark of God from Abinadab's house on a new cart, with Uzzah and Ahio guiding it, and David and the Israelites were celebrating with all their might before God. And
They're doing it wrong and partying and
that's
celebrating.
that was the
Like
issue.
if they're doing it right.
That's the issue. And then when they came to the threshing floor of Kidon, Uzzah reached out his hand to steady the ark because the oxen stumbled. And so because I'm sitting here listening, first of all, they weren't even doing it the proper way.
Correct.
They were the Kohathites, those people. It was saying back in Numbers, it says, after Aaron and his sons had finished covering the holy furnishings and all the holy articles, and when the camp was ready to move, only then are the Kohathites to come and do the carrying. But they must not touch the holy things or they will die. The Kohathites are to carry those things that are in the tent of the meeting. And I was trying to search and see where the instructions were on how they were supposed to carry it. But the way they were moving it was wrong to begin with. And if they were carrying it the right way and doing it the proper way, I'm wondering, would it have even stumbled if it would have fallen in the first place? So when I'm looking at reading this, I don't even think it was a whole issue of him touching it. I think the message was, one, you had a disregard for the ark in the first place. It was just a complete disregard. And then they were not even following God's instructions to begin with. They weren't transporting it the right way. The proper people weren't carrying it, and then they touched it. It wasn't just, Uzzah touched the ark. I think it was the whole process it was just a disregard for the the holiness of it was just gone.
Well, it was just disobedience.
Disregard.
From the proper the instructions that God had given.
Let's add on to that verse 5.
Who
was gathered?
Which one? Which chapter?
13:5.
Numbers. Oh, Chronicles.
Chronicles 13 verse 5.
Today we assemble.
Assemble all Israel.
Right. So all of Israel is there.
Yeah.
All the Levites, all the priests, everybody is there.
Yeah.
And not one person said, but wait,
Yeah.
this thing
Nobody.
off.
No one.
Nobody said it
that's
was
what I'm saying.
off.
Right.
It was nobody. So it
And
was.
everybody was carrying on like this is the right
Yeah.
way to do it.
So
Correct.
and everybody knew
Somebody
that something.
that something was wrong, and I
Right.
think it wasn't.
somebody had to
just-
die.
So the reason why I can tell that they knew is because David then changed it. Like his whole thing changes after that, which tells me that he might not have. Maybe they didn't They all didn't recognize the severity of it.
No,
or-
they
What
knew.
did, what did David?
They
what was
knew.
David's response?
Why is David mad then? Why is
Because
David
David recognized, oh, God's serious.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what. No,
So that's what I'm saying. They didn't realize
they
the
knew.
severity of it.
They knew.
The severity of
They
it.
may
That
not
what
have
it could
recognized
do.
the severity.
I don't. Yeah, you know what I mean. I don't think
because
they
they kept getting their date extended.
that's what it was.
But why is David changing his whole?
Because now he's like,
Mm.
oh,
Now the teacher said,
Say,
oh, y'all are
oh,
bringing
so I'm
it in
gonna
on
really
time.
get a zero
Y'all
now.
not-
They got comfortable.
Now you get the zero.
That's what it was.
But that's deep because if like what we were saying before, if they were doing it, if they knew how to do it and they were doing it wrong, incorrectly. I mean, it sounds a lot like I'd say myself.
But it wasn't just individuals. As a community,
Right.
So Uzzah died for everybody.
That's what I mean.
It's
is
interesting that,
that
at verse 13
That's
never.
what we're saying. Uzzah died for everybody.
what I mean, we-
I-
he
Uzzah
just happened to be
Listen.
the unlucky guy.
In their sin, something has to die.
Yeah.
But like to your point, Anika, they were doing it wrong the whole time. They had the instruction, and and that sounds to me a lot like God gives us the instruction to avoid all of the pitfalls.
Mm-hmm.
But then we don't follow the instruction, and then we look for the mercy when we didn't do it the correct way. And I think that's the underlying message.
I think
That's
Sharika's making
deep.
that point. She says the issue is we expect mercy because we know God does it all the time. And I guess that means give us mercy. And she puts in quote as if, this is our position. You never beat me and now you choose to. It
Wow.
can't be our thought. It's not fair to us or to God. So you ain't never beaten me before. Why you beating me now? But I told you if you do this, I'll get licks. I'm just being fair to what I said.
Licks is beaten to translation.
I'm
I'm with you.
I mean, I just wanted Uzzah to get a lick, not die. That's all I'm saying.
He did get a lick.
Because only the reason why I'm saying that is because I wanted Uzzah to get that same chance to say, you know what, God is serious. Let me turn this thing around,
Sure.
so that he could change. Just
Why?
like David changed.
How
Well,
many kids-
David was
how-
given a chance to
how
kind
many
of
kids did-
reference God
Why-
after that.
How many
But-
kids do you have?
But if you die,
How many
then
kids do you have?
2.
Right. Or let's suppose, hypothetically, you had 4 kids, right? And you set a rule, and your kids carrying on and acting the fool. And you're watching it carrying on. And you're starting to boil inside because they're carrying on in front of your face as if you're not supposed to be mad that they're carrying on. And you go and you grab for your belt, and the first one you reach,
That sounds like my mom.
collect it. Is it bad that that one collected because he was the first one?
Yeah, I
Hold
always
on.
got it, so yeah, it was bad.
What was that?
Yeah, it was bad. I always got
Is
it.
it
was
bad
the
that one?
The one who was closest to you
Okay.
He's
is
the
the
one
one
who
who
gets
get
it.
Lex.
Okay.
Now the others didn't get him because they scamper and start running.
Yep.
But he's the only one who get licks. Is it unfair that he get licks and
It
the
is
others
unfair.
didn't? Oh wow.
It's unfair because everybody else, all of us were acting up.
Even
But-
though the rules were the rules.
And the fact that I don't get a chance to actually say,
So you're thinking as a parent, you need to go stop and beat everybody.
no,
Or
I
you
can
shouldn't
hit the
beat,
first
or
one.
you
'cause
shouldn't
then-
beat, you shouldn't pull your belt for any of them.
No, I should pull a belt, right?
Right.
When I pull a belt, the thing about it with them, the way I see it is with them, they have a chance to say, she's serious. Let's just go sit down. Let's all go sit down.
Oh,
How do you
As
see,
it did
how
not
do you
get a
see, how do you
chance.
see the belt?
No, I'm saying if I get one of them, right? If I get one of them, I'll give you an example. My mom used to do that because my mom would get me first, like.
So you were the slowest.
Now we got to the root of
We
the
got to the
problem.
root of
We
the
got to
issue.
the root.
So, but then my siblings would then behave, right? Because they just saw what happened.
Yes, that's exactly what
Right,
happened. with
but
Uzzah.
I'm saying to kill Asa
I
does
have a
not
question
get,
for
get
you,
it
To beat Z.
I have a
to
question.
beat Asa to where he doesn't get a chance to say, let me fix it, is where I'm at. I'm
To
like,
fix what?
Fix what? He was already doing wrong. He deserved the licks.
everybody deserves
No,
Maybe his-
hold on.
I think
There's-
I know where
but
this
there-
is
but there's
coming from.
several things. Well, you have to
I have a
remember
question.
there's several things that happen in life that we will look at as unfair, but people knew what was going on. Your parent tells you not to play with a gun, right?
But I
Y'all
hope
think y'all
Uzzah
in
is
there playing with the
forgiven for
gun.
that though, because
Why-
he then dies to
See,
exemplify.
I know
But what I'm
I
saying,
hope Uzzah is
but it doesn't.
forgiven.
But no. Uzzah didn't die to exemplify anything. Uzzah died because he disobeyed.
Everybody disobeyed.
As a consequence, I mean, as a result of, people now say David was like, oh, he's serious.
Maybe God showed His mercy to. Why is Siri turned on? We didn't say hey Siri, did we? Maybe
So
God.
he's serious. That
That's
may have
what
sounded like
happened. That's
this.
what happened. But it wasn't my voice. It should only know my voice. Anyway, Apple. Maybe God's mercy was that they were doing it wrong and He didn't hit anybody yet.
All of them.
And then as soon as He touched it, He's like, all right, that's the, and His mercy probably instilling that was that everybody didn't get wiped out. It was just that one.
Okay, he could have wiped everybody.
Because
out.
if He would have wiped everybody, I'd be like, why didn't He give mercy to? So maybe people got mercy that didn't actually make the story, and we're looking at it as one when He really wanted to wipe out maybe.
And that one actually did something wrong.
Yeah, he's the one that touched it.
He's the one that touched it.
Nobody else touched
He
it.
was probably boiling the whole time it was being done wrong, and then it was like, all
And
right,
then he
he
was boiling
touched the
after.
thing. I got a rule against that. You got to die. So this is easy. Take him out. That's my word.
He's the one that touched it.
Z, are you unsettled because you think
Because you always got
Uzzah's
grabbed
missed
first.
out on the whole kingdom?
Dude, I was just going
Because
I don't want Uzzah to go to hell for this.
He's
I know where
he's
to
in the hell.
I understand.
He's there burning
How
now.
do you
That's
know?
what I said. I hope Uzzah is forgiven after
See,
this.
that's where
Given for what?
That's where Z is.
He
is
died so
struggling.
that you could see that God
No,
is
he didn't.
serious.
No. He hasn't. No, he was not a martyr. Like, no one's erecting a statue to Uzzah because Uzzah did wrong.
But you know
Everybody
what?
there did.
We
wrong.
don't
No,
know.
You don't
everyone
know.
there didn't do wrong.
You don't know
They
where
did because they
Uzzah's
were carrying.
gonna
We
be.
No,
just
no.
said we just
Right.
Certain
established
people
that they
did
were doing
wrong.
it wrong, guys.
Certain people did wrong.
Z,
David
you
did
don't
wrong.
Know, you don't know where Uzzah's
They
gonna
weren't
be.
carrying
Right.
it right.
Don't worry. Don't
Yes,
stress
I
yourself with
agree.
that.
That's
You
what I
don't
was
know
doing.
where Uzzah is.
We don't
gonna
know
be.
what's gonna happen with Uzzah. His
don't
final
know.
judgment isn't.
You don't know.
He could.
Because Moses died the same
Exactly.
kind of
Right.
Moses died the same kind of death as Uzzah.
Right.
No,
Yeah, I
he
was
did.
still
His
mad.
Yes, he
mercy.
did.
No, he
Yes, he
did.
did.
Yes, he did.
Yes, he
No,
did.
he
Because I was
didn't.
still
He was
mad at that.
disobedient.
I was
He
mad
He
at
was
that.
disobedient and had a chance to repent.
No, he didn't.
Moses?
He didn't have a chance to
He didn't have a
repent.
chance.
Who didn't have a chance to repent?
Yeah, nah. His word was final.
have it.
Like, bro.
Hold on.
already-
Moses didn't have a chance to repent?
Yeah, it wasn't.
He
gonna
had a
change.
chance to say, "I'm sorry," but that was it.
There we go. Yes.
But they didn't make it. It did not change
No.
his
The
consequence.
consequence didn't change, but
Correct.
Moses still had the opportunity to say, "I'm sorry, I was wrong,"
Oh,
acknowledge
okay, I
his
got what you're
mistake.
saying. Versus
Uzzah
Paul,
had no
he just fell
opportunity.
out.
Yeah,
Uzzah
didn't
touched,
get an
dead,
opportunity.
gone.
You don't know how fast he died.
Nah, he was.
He died. He died because David
what I
was
was
mad.
looking
Uzzah died. He was
It
struck
was-
immediately. He was
yeah.
struck.
No, but like you were saying,
He died
everybody
right there.
that passed, when God comes back, we don't know what the end result is going to be. So maybe you'll still see God's mercy in that He. Is
There are
still
a
going
lot
to
of
heaven.
people we don't know.
Yeah.
That dude.
Sharika said, "You
Not making
nosy."
Why?
And she adds, "Salvation is a personal journey. I cannot look to my left or right and say, what about him or her? We don't know if the others changed after. Just because you live doesn't mean you changed."
Correct.
Word. Who said that?
Sharika.
Just because you
Sharika. When you
Just because you survived
Just because you, yes.
the ark experience.
True that, but I'm worried about dude because he died.
Don't
he's asleep right now. We don't know what's going to happen
worry
with him
about that, Z.
long term.
Yeah.
See, I felt where your passion was coming from. I knew that was the issue. It's okay, Z.
Listen,
It's ladies'
there,
night.
this
Z.
thing,
Ladies' night,
can,
but
this thing can
y'all
end up a couple different ways. You could be looking at Uzzah from the outside in, or from the inside out, as he's trying to take the city, or you could be taking the city with him. But he's not going to be inside looking outside.
Stop.
Is it me or does Uzzah kind of sound like Utz? Or maybe I'm just hungry.
I didn't, there were some other people in the other chat room, both of them. Orlando says, God's mercy was extended to Uzzah and God's mercy was extended. Uzzah had an opportunity. It may seem short, but he had an opportunity. So, and someone is asking, so the ark stumbling was a test of obedience?
That's what I'm saying. Was that a temptation?
I don't know if it was a
Like,
test of
something like that.
obedience. It was the ark stumbling was a result of disobedience.
Yes, because if they were carried in the right way, it would not have
It
stumbled.
would not have stumbled.
Shout out to Orlando. That's my dude. That's Orlando from okay.
Hey, Orlando.
Oh,
he thought he was doing good though.
Yeah.
A lot
You
of
know
us
his
do.
intention.
What's the
And
saying?
see, you don't know what God, you don't know, and you don't know.
You don't know people. Yeah.
That scares me because if I'm trying to do something,
Yeah. There you
That's
go.
scary.
There you go, David.
That's right.
Davida.
That's right.
Maybe he was the example for
That's
all
a
of
good
us.
point.
That's the best point you made.
That's a good point. That sometimes we think we're doing good and
Yeah.
you know, you're
we,
messing
we
the whole thing
being
up.
we being defiant against what God is asking.
Maybe he was the example for all of us. So now we're learning about him, and now we're like,
Yeah, but
hang
how
on.
will you know? Because he didn't know. I wouldn't know. if
He
knew that.
did know. He knew the rules,
So he's doing this because he's trying to help.
but he knew
So
the
you-
rules.
So just like you and I could go out here and think, oh yeah, let me help, dude, and we don't know that God placed him there for
So
whatever reason.
so yes. So yeah. So I was having this conversation with somebody yesterday, and I was having it with somebody a couple weeks ago. Like, one of the things that I like to help, right? But one of the things I've realized is that helping isn't always your responsibility, because it's not all we're not designed to always help someone. God may want this person to go through this particular thing because he needs for them to understand something or to experience something. And you helping then comes in and others the responsibility that's their lesson to learn. That's not for you to fix. And then sometimes God wants you, yes, you go and help. So the key is communication with God and to figure out what God wants you to do. But in this particular situation, Uzzah was told, no one is supposed to touch the ark under any circumstances. No caveats. It was like,
It's like Saul. I needed
Kill-
to stay. I needed to kill everybody and done. He's like,
I saved
That's
this.
a
Yeah,
we-
we'll save this stuff
It
for
was
you.
good
but this is
justification.
like, this is good stuff.
maybe we could save it and use it, and the guys could get spoiled, and or
And it
This
makes
is-
sense because, right? But it's not what he said.
or Abraham. This will be your son of promise. 11 years.
Goes by.
Maybe if we let Hagar do it, then that would be us helping.
Mm-hmm.
But at least Abraham didn't die.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes, he did.
Others should have read
Out of that.
a little bit more.
He died. Everybody was reading about it died eventually.
No, I mean, no, he didn't die out of that.
When
Correct.
he died first,
But but those are the consequences,
same,
right?
same boat.
Which means God is just.
Which means he's just.
I need to go to heaven because I really need to ask. He needs to really tell me why. Like, for real.
You don't even have to go to heaven for that. Like we just told you. Like,
Keep
like,
challenging.
if that's why you need to go to heaven, like you need to come up with something different. 'Cause you.
So Shuga says he didn't think he was doing good. They knew they were wrong, and was trying to be not wrong-er. Not carrying it correctly. I can't let it break.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how it goes.
Yeah, I
Right.
like it.
Alright.
Yeah, it's cool.
Anything stood out to you this week?
Again, this being my first one, I have a lot of little stuff that stood out throughout.
Share one.
The one that comes to mind is, was it just me or was it crazy that David had that woman's husband killed by sending him out in battle lines and all that?
Oh,
So then,
Uriah,
yeah.
the Hittite,
So then,
His boy.
his homeboy.
right, his boy. So then, the baby died as a result. But then I was like, dang, God just gave him another boy.
Mercy.
Mercy. And justice.
And the baby died.
The baby died. And the baby didn't do anything
Baby
wrong.
number one. died.
Uzzah Eater.
Wait, I wasn't trying to. Just so
Ito.
you know, I wasn't
Uzzah
trying to make.
Ito.
I wasn't trying to make it a point against you. They just took
Oh,
my
no.
and try to aim it at you.
No, we didn't. That was the
No,
spirit
that was
needed.
the Holy Spirit.
That was the spirit needed.
They-
Yeah, because the baby did nothing
Did
wrong.
nothing wrong.
He was an
But that's
innocent
a
bystander.
But But look at this. This is
God
God
could've-
trying to this is God trying to teach David a lesson. So he leaves David there alive so that he can see what this is what you did. This is what you're gonna get out of it.
Yes!
Asa, you
You're
just did
You're
this.
making your own.
Yeah, I'm like, what are you?
You're making your own.
You're
points.
arguing against yourself?
No, I'm saying the baby died, but this was for David. to
Objection,
learn.
Z. No,
Exactly,
Z.
like Uzzah.
But no, Asa
Uzzah
died,
died,
so
but this was
Asa
so Israel
did
could learn.
not get a chance to see and say, "Okay, God,
The baby
The
did.
let me
the
make
baby,
this
the
right."
baby doesn't get
The
a
baby
chance.
does not.
Who cares about the baby,
chance.
right?
Who cares about the baby?
But you know what?
Khalil,
But you know what?
you're coming home with me tonight, bud.
But you know what? Honestly, to your point though.
You guys don't understand what
No,
I'm saying.
No,
but,
we
but to your
understand.
point, to
You
your
say the
point,
same thing. You say the same
and
thing.
Jared, here's my question to
Go
you
ahead.
then. There's obviously people that God holds higher than others, and I'll say it real loosely. I'm not getting stricken down, but what, like the husband that died, he got sent out by David.
Mhm.
He was ill intentioned. God knew and saw what he was doing. He still got sent out, and he died.
He was
Right,
faithful.
You're right.
He was
and
faithful.
The baby died.
Uriah and the baby died.
So then she had the baby. The baby died, but then they just had another one. Now this dude is.
Uriah, the baby died, and David got his wife. Still,
Instead had another baby.
And had Solomon.
So my question
So
is,
David is given more chances and chance to repent when
Yep.
everybody else is dying. It sounds like everybody's dying from David.
so my
Okay.
question, Jared, is there's clearly some individuals that God holds higher, that some things, to kind of to your point, are forgiven and okay, let's try this again. Right? You learn from your mistake. When others, it's kind of like you didn't even do anything wrong. This dude was sleeping with your wife, and sent you out, and you died. Like God didn't protect him. He died in that story. David was forgiven and still moved on. That's one of the things that stood out. Like that seems a little. I'm not questioning you, Lord, so don't strike me. But to me, that just seems a little. I don't know.
Shady.
That, I'm not
You
gonna
Call,
say that.
no, you just called God shady. So
No, I
listen.
didn't say that. You said
But-
that. You strike
So
him.
this is the thing.
I'm just saying it.
Well,
That's
he was
what stands
asking.
out. That's my question.
Go ahead, Kevin.
So I try to look at this thing not from our level, but from like a bird's eye view, right?
Okay.
And from a bird's eye view, everybody looks the same. When you're in a plane, everybody looks the same.
Okay.
And so it's easy for us to say, oh, he respects this person more than this person, da da da. But when you look at it from up there, so don't take me literally with this. I'll use like it's chess pieces, but we're not, it's not chess pieces. But it's like chess pieces, right? Without the king and the queen. So we all play a part in achieving what God's overall objective is. And so he's using us, if we're willing to achieve his goal of saving he wants to save people from their sins.
Even using
And
our
spend time.
unwillingness.
Yes, and spend time with us in eternity, and to prove that he is this just God, right? So it doesn't matter. He's not looking at us because we're better than this person's better than them, or David's better than Uriah, or anything like that. He may be looking at it from, I can reach more and do more if I have David and using this circumstance in order to benefit the rest of the world. I don't know.
No.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
you're
It's
on point.
sometimes it's hard to. Sometimes we should take a step back and not look at it from, oh, he values this person more than he values this person,
Right.
because I don't know if God necessarily looks.
I
at us
agree.
like
I
that.
agree 100%. I think that's exactly right. And even to the first, when we started out, we were talking about the Gentile.
How are you watching from here?
Huh? My phone is on it.
Oh, okay.
I got that.
Now, if he
No.
starts asking questions, that's when you get concerned
Yeah.
on there.
Go ahead.
But yeah, because I was trying to see some of the questions that people were typing. But what was I saying? Oh, I agree with 100% with your point, and I think that's the answer. Again, it wasn't necessarily a question like this doesn't make sense, but does seem a little. I get the full picture, but in it just seems like, man, that's unfortunate because I could be doing and then I get snipped out. But remembering too that the overall thing is that okay, he died, he's probably going to heaven. It doesn't mean he's dead for eternity. He just again was a piece of the story overall. But I think in that same explanation is back to the first point that we started on, the Gentiles, is that same overall theme that it's almost like a overview, and this is the scenario for that specific thing, but it plays a part in the bigger overall stories.
Let's take Saul, for example, to make this point. Saul, when he's making his decision not to kill the Amalekites, is not thinking about God's larger intent to meet justice on the Amalekites for something they had done many years ago. He's not thinking about that. And God he's managing a big pie of things, and there are a lot of moving parts, and he has a quite broader perspective. When we live narrowly in our perspective and what we are doing, we don't necessarily get to see the impact of our decisions or indecisions or unwillingness to do what is right in the larger scheme, as Kenrick is talking about, of what God, we don't have the benefit of his perspective. And sometimes when we make these choices to do these wrong things, we don't have the benefit of perspective, and sometimes when God takes action, we also don't have the benefit of perspective. So our responsibility is really just to be faithful, no matter what.
One of the things I've learned is that there's so many different, like, something will happen. Somebody gets sick and dies, right? All the people that know that person are looking at this situation from different vantage points, right? And those vantage points are colored by experiences that they've had, all that kind of stuff. And so many times we focus on the person that died, right? And we lose the perspective of what that impact is going to be and has been, or that person has been on everybody else. Hundreds of people. And you magnify that with a whole world where people die daily and all that, and things happen on a regular basis to people. And it really puts into perspective like how much God uses circumstances to shape our lives and for us to make decisions. And from this perspective, like from David's perspective with the Uzzah and all that kind of stuff, it wasn't just David. David is the leader, and he's got a whole people that he has to lead that now have to look at him from their own perspectives. And they're looking at Uzzah, they're looking at David, they're looking at God, and they're trying to figure out still how this relationship all works.
And then even further, David is supposed to be being led by God to lead the people. So if he's leading the people astray and having this big celebration in the name of God, contrary to the way of God, it's misrepresenting God. And I would even dare to say that's what burned his anger. And Uzzah just happened to catch it.
Yeah, Uzzah was the reset button.
Or the sober up button.
David wasn't.
Because there's been instances where God's anger burned and thousands of people just died when he got angry. Justifiably they died. But in this case it was only Uzzah.
I think about too is John the Baptist. Like he died.
Yeah, but he talked too much.
And people like were literally getting healed, and Jesus was just walking, healing people, resurrecting people, and he died. So
he didn't even come to visit.
Right. So
yeah, because he's a snitch. John the Baptist, like, I have no love. Like he should have. He wasn't doing his part. He should have been quiet.
Sharika adds, to whom much is given, much is required. God also knows the hearts, things we are not privy to. So there are other pieces that may be going on, that may have been going on with Uzzah. We have no idea about why Uzzah caught it.
It's very true.
And until you get a chance to sit with God and he's able to explain, here's some other things. The author wrote this because this is all he saw. But he didn't know all of this was going on.
And David is angry, so of course, to me, that says the person who's right there with you. It's like, God, I thought.
Yes, but read what he says. Like, he's angry, but in his anger with God,
He changes around.
he realizes that God is serious. Like, it changed his entire perspective.
And then he went to investigate what. It's almost like you grew up in church and you're accustomed to seeing the way people do things, and you have no idea that the way that some of the things that we're doing are off.
Mm-hmm.
And then you read the Bible for yourself, because your mom dies, and you read the Bible for yourself and you realize, oh, we need to do things differently. And now you lead a revival and a reformation because you suffered a loss. You know, and so it's that kind of thing. Anika, talk to me.
I guess a couple things that stood out to me was Solomon when he was anointed king.
Solomon anointed king? What about that? I'm not stood out to you.
Just the whole issue of was it Adonijah? Am I getting the name right?
Adonijah is the brother, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
When he decided he wanted to become king, and I guess that whole back and forth with him and his brother, and him declaring himself king, and then him wanting to have his father's maid servant, and then Solomon saying, okay, you know what, when he went to Bathsheba and said, oh, you know, give me this one request, and you know, she was like, are you coming in peace? Oh yeah, I'm coming in peace. You know, I just want to marry a servant.
Mm-hmm.
And initially I was like, well, you know, what's the harm in that?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm still trying to understand like how Solomon saw that as he's
He
still
was pissed.
being, you know,
I mean, he was really upset.
up to his old tricks, you know, and he's like, okay, well, Solomon's gonna die this day. And I'm not Solomon, Adonijah. And even with Joab, Joab died, and then I can't remember who the other person was that had to die.
Shimei.
Yes, he was part of the war army. No, he was the one that killed someone.
Shimei is the one who was throwing stones at him.
Disrespecting David.
Who was
That's one.
Mhm.
Yes, him.
Mhm.
So I think all of that was just a little. It stood out to me. And the reason why it stood out to me, how he had them killed, because initially David wanted to rebuild
Chapter 2.
God's.
David's final instructions.
Sorry.
Song. As the time of King David's
I guess we're gonna read it.
I guess we're going to read it. I accidentally hit the play button.
When David wanted to rebuild the temple, God told him no, because you know you shed too much blood, and he said, you know, your son will do it. But I guess part of me thought that Solomon hadn't shed any blood at all. But that's how he started off his kingdom.
But
Like,
not the kind of blood that David was shedding. David was killing people
Because he
as a way of life.
Like, he loved.
He was killing people. He would go and raid a town, take people's stuff, and kill everybody.
For one reason.
Just
It's like-
that's how he was living.
Well, and it was like, I just don't need them. They can't tell.
Yeah, they can't tell.
So it was like, but that's the only reason. Like, it wasn't because God told him to do it. It wasn't because, like, he was cleansing. Like, it was
And
just,
so, you know, when
he
you
needed
have
food.
that kind of way of life, you don't really want that guy being the guy who... You want somebody whose hands are cleaner, relatively. That's plenty blood.
yeah.
but
And
yeah,
foreskins.
that was the first thing that crossed my mind. But then I was just trying to understand Adonijah's mindset, like how Solomon took that as a message that he was still coming for his throne.
So I didn't understand it either, but this note from my Bible
What?
kind of...
Where?
it is 1 Kings 2. My Bible has a little note that says 1 Kings 2:22. the note for that verse reads, Solomon reads Adonijah's simple request as a plea for kingship and a violation of their asylum agreement in verse 152.
Mm-hmm.
The king may merely be using this request as a pretext to get rid of Adonijah. More likely, Solomon acts in light of a popular perception that to marry Abishag, a member of the royal harem, gave Adonijah the right to claim succession to David. Abishag's intimate association with David might have further strengthened Adonijah's case.
But Abishai
But that's one of the
wasn't-
things-
But she wasn't.
She didn't sleep with
She
him.
That's
didn't
the-
sleep with him. She
but
was
that's-
just his like. She was just like, nursing him and
But-
taking
but
care
it
of
was-
him.
But isn't that
case.
what? But that was even what Solomon was saying. He was like, he told his mom, like, I might as well give him
Yeah.
the kingdom.
Because it was David's private special woman.
Correct.
If he has him, he can now argue, I have the woman. I should be.
Well, how is that the case? Because it wasn't like she was a concubine or she was a wife or she was just like a nurse. So this I'm trying to understand. like-
Nurse-ish.
Nurse-ish.
but she wasn't intimate. It was very clear that they never had any relations. The
She
Bible.
was, she was a
the
massage
Bible,
therapist.
the Bible wrote no. The Bible.
She was a masseuse.
No, the Bible said they never had any sexual relations. It said it in there. It
Yeah, but
said
it
in
was
there.
it was a special possession of
Correct.
the king.
Oh my gosh.
She was a special possession because even Bathsheba wasn't coming in the room.
Yeah, she was.
Bathsheba hadn't even been in the room to lie down with him.
Yeah.
David might have asked for the happy ending.
Do you understand?
Yeah, no, that's. I
You
mean,
understand?
that's the way I thought it happened.
I didn't hear what he said.
Nah.
Nah,
don't know what
he
they
did
said.
he did that on purpose.
You don't know what they said.
I hope nobody.
You could do that in the afterflow.
Yeah, you don't want to know what they say. Oh my god.
Yeah, but I didn't see it either. But then understanding, okay, if I take this possession, I can then argue, I can then make a case to other people that, hey, this should be mine because I have this now. And so, but there's speculation because we really don't know what was in the mind of Solomon, and we could only, at best guess, draw conclusions based on the information we have. So I don't know that it will necessarily satisfy you.
And so, what was your question?
My question was.
Or was it observation?
No. I was just saying that. Oh, never mind, because it says here Abishag was a royal concubine.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Who never got any.
Look who now needs to read.
The first virgin concubine
Yes,
in the Bible.
yes. Z, I found something else for you.
You did?
The
Mhm.
first virgin concubine.
Oh, it says, and thus belonging to Solomon.
She belonged
Yes,
to him, but
because he was his
Because it was.
the fathers.
Yeah.
Right. Get passed down. Mm-hmm. That passed down the wives.
she doesn't want to.
Second Samuel.
A great life.
Second Samuel 21:1.
Don't knock it till you try it.
Second Samuel what?
21:1.
My phone's about to go.
21:1.
Mm-hmm.
Why the?
Sharika said, "We heard you, bro."
Oh man, that mic is too clear. While
Second
we're,
Samuel 21:1.
while we're still flipping, my wife is watching. Hi, wife, and baby. Love you.
Isn't that the right one?
You said 21:1?
That's not what I meant. That's not what I meant. I may have written this thing wrong.
What are you talking about?
So Z has been wrestling with Saul and Saul's hold on. Let me find what I'm looking for first.
What are you wrestling with?
So, and how he wasn't getting answers, so because he wasn't getting
Oh, the witch?
I mean,
Or everything?
everything.
Yeah.
I thought about that today because I was praying about something and I was thinking to myself, I only have this much time. So if I'm praying about this, and God does not respond, what do I do?
Why do you only have that much time?
Because I need to do something about something, but I only have a window of time.
Why?
Why?
Why is there only that window of time?
Because like if somebody says, okay, go and make a decision and let me know by tomorrow, for example, I can't say to them, well, can you wait till next week if I don't hear from God? Like if they say,
Why can't you?
no, but if the person says, I want an answer tomorrow,
They're not
No.
merciful.
I'm saying, why can't you?
do what?
Say,
Give me till next
I
week?
haven't heard. I don't
Oh,
know what
God.
I'm gonna do yet. And I need more time.
No, but if it's either you or this person, and on this date, I have to know from both of you,
And so if God doesn't say,
and then I don't hear nothing from God,
then what happens?
and then I'm sitting. So I was actually thinking about it. I was like, wow. So if I decide to just go ahead and say, okay, I didn't hear anything,
Mhm.
and just do what I perceive to be the best.
Mm-hmm.
It might not be a bad thing, but I just decide, I'm not
You didn't
heard
wait for
anything.
God.
But I don't have
Why not?
time. You know what I mean?
No. Why not? Why don't you have time?
Because I've been given a deadline
By who?
by this person who says, by such and such a time, give me an answer. What do I do? So if I don't hear from God, what do I do?
Pray
I'm
that-
not going to go to the witch, but I'm just saying.
Pray
so
that
then,
you make the right decision, and that
Or-
God is with you in that decision that you made.
Or you wait for God.
Yeah, it was 21-1. I was right. 21-1. Yeah, that's it.
Or you can wait for God.
Yeah, it was right. It was right.
and 21:1.
Mm-hmm.
Second Samuel.
2 Samuel 21-1. Can you read that?
During the reign of David, there was a famine for 3 successive years. So David sought the face of the Lord. The Lord said, it is on account of Saul and his blood-stained house. It is because he put the Gibeonites to death.
What version do you have? What other versions do you have? What does
I
the
have
King
the
James version
Amplified.
say?
There was a famine in the days of David 3 years after. No, there was a famine in the days of David 3 years, year after year. And David inquired of the Lord, and the Lord answered him. It is for Saul and his bloody house, because he slew the
That's what I'm looking for.
Gibeonites.
That's what I'm looking for.
I know God is not saying that to David when David is full, like, is bloody himself.
Now go back and read 1 Samuel 28:47.
1 Samuel 20.
28. 1 Samuel
Oh,
28.
1 Samuel.
28:47. Which is where Saul was doing his inquiry.
28:4-7.
Mm-hmm.
The Philistines assembled and came and set up camp at Shunem, while Saul gathered all Israel and set up camp at Gilboa. When Saul saw the Philistine army, he was afraid. Terror filled his heart. He inquired of the Lord, but the Lord did not answer him by dreams or Urim or prophets. What's Urim?
Sacred
So-
lots.
What is it?
I'm assuming it's sacred lots.
Okay. Saul
Yeah,
then
it's
said,
sacred lots.
okay. Saul then said to his attendants, find me a woman who's a medium, so I may go and inquire of her.
So good. So you have Saul encountering a situation that was distressful, and he inquired of the Lord, and the Lord didn't answer him. You have David encountering a situation that was distressing, and he inquires of the Lord, and the Lord answers him. Here's what I found that was interesting. The English uses the word inquire. The Hebrew uses two different words to describe what Saul did
And what-
versus what David did. So we're going to look at David first.
So David sought the face of the Lord.
So I pulled the verse up, right? 2 Samuel 21:1, and the word inquire is H12:45. Can you read the meaning there?
To seek, require, desire, exact, request.
Right? It's almost good. But what is the Strong's definition?
To search out by any method, specifically in worship or prayer, by implication to strive or to strive after.
Right. Now let's pull up First Samuel, which is the verse where it says God, he inquired of Saul, of God. Which specific verse?
First and 28.
Yeah, what verse in 28?
Or 4.
Is it 4? Is it 5? Is it 6?
It's 6. He
Alright.
inquired of the Lord.
So 6 is a whole different number. 7592. What does it say?
To ask, to inquire by implication, to request, by extension, to demand. Say that again.
That must have been Saul.
Mm-hmm.
The word that was used to describe what Saul's inquiry was more of a demanding
Demand
request.
than-
Whereas David's inquiring of the Lord was worship and prayer. Had a posture of humbling, and the word itself makes that distinction, which we would not have gotten because the English just uses the same word
Inquire.
to make it
That's
seem
the-
like they did the same thing. That came across us by accident.
That's not an accident.
That was an accident.
That's
How
Yeah,
did
that's
I
not
accidentally
accident.
God gave it to me?
Yeah,
That's deep.
It's not accident.
So I add that on there.
I need to write that down.
So I never even thought about that.
yeah, I never even thought
American,
to question the.
but the
You said because you're American.
yeah, no,
That's right. I
My
never really
vocabulary
said,
sucks.
let me look that word up.
but
That's deep.
I always
Yeah,
thought
that's
about
really-
it from the perspective that God had already left Saul. He had already rejected Saul,
Mm-hmm.
so there was no conversation. There was no
There could still have
communication.
been conversation.
And you know what? They're spelled different.
Yes.
Is that what tipped you off, Dre? To look?
No, my Bible actually had David sought the face of the Lord, so that's why I looked it up. And then the King James Bible Dictionary had inquired, and that is what triggered me to.
They inquire
So-
with the E with the E, or they inquire with the.
Which one is the E? I'm sure the National Enquirer
The one that
is
belongs
the
to
one
David
with-
is the E.
Oh,
Mhm. The one that belongs to Saul is also an E.
It's an I on mine.
According to King James, it's both E's.
Okay.
While we're still in that story, that was one of my other confusion points with Saul, was that he got the median to summon Samuel. But then there's the dead know nothing. So then that was what me and Christina was talking about, was like, well, and we read deeper into it, and our thought was that he was already gone and disconnected from God.
Mhm.
So that he was already on the wrong. So it might just be his own mind working against him. Who knows if the actual spirit of Samuel came back.
So one of the things that we talked about, and along those lines, the last time we talked about it, is that sometimes it's important when you're reading the Bible to look at the intent of the writer in telling a story, as opposed to just trying to pass the details of the story. So the intent of the writer is to demonstrate that Saul is so far gone that he is now consulting a medium. The point of the story is not to determine whether it was Samuel or not. In fact, that's immaterial to the story. It's really just how far Saul has gone, that he's gone this way. And so while it is interesting conversation to debate whether it was Samuel or a spirit,
Yeah,
it's not
the point.
the point that the author was trying to
Sure.
make.
You hear that, book? Because we got stuck on that for a while. We were like, but we concluded the same thing. But that clears it up, because I think that's what overall.
What were you saying, Cameron?
I can't remember.
No, okay. 'Cause you were saying that he was so far gone. He was gone. The spirit had left him.
Yes.
Yes.
I don't know.
You don't remember the point you were making?
No.
I think that was the point.
I just
that you
think.
were making.
I think I'm thinking of. Was it Brandy and Monica? Or Monica the same? Whatever. That's all in my head right now.
But if we can still talk about, like, for people who might read that and still might question, well,
Which part?
the Samuel thing. For people who might read it and still question if they might see their loved ones or see people, how do how do we help reconcile that and knowing that whether or not I know what the point of the reading is, but if we're reading scripture and we know what the Bible says about,
I'm actually curious to see how you guys answer this.
how do we help people who might read that and have those questions?
Yeah, it's a real question because there is people that I know
But they're
from
spirits.
both sides of it.
Like, it's possible for people to conjure spirits.
Pastor.
Is it?
Yes.
What are they conjuring? Do you know?
They're conjuring spirits. Now, whether it's the actual person, but they're spirits.
How does God feel about that?
Well, the Bible says the dead are done. Not specifically.
Forget that part. How does God feel about the conjuring of spirits?
He doesn't
He's
like
not
it.
happy with it.
He's not for it. So,
But it doesn't mean it doesn't happen.
well, could it be that the devil has powers too to make things seem and play the certain, because he's watching the whole story that we watched our whole lives. So like my mom that passed, he may know just from earlier on in my childhood what like just gets me in that certain point where I'm looking and thinking about my mom, and if it catch me at the right moment, he might have me think at that moment that maybe this is my mom's feeling or spirit. And I think that may play a part in it, that the devil knows and is just as woke as and knows all of those little triggers too, and
To get you to touch the ark.
to get you to touch the ark. So maybe because we know for a fact that God feels strongly against.
I don't think the devil made that act stumble.
Oh my
God did, so that the lesson could be there.
She's not letting that go.
Sorry, that's all I'm
No,
working
no,
with.
you good. Just saying, man. You really
I'm starting to believe
you
in
really looking out for him. If
I'm starting to believe in
I think
the incarnation.
That's the
Your
angle
answer's
that
right.
I would approach it from.
Because someone reading this, it looks like Saul and Samuel had a full-on conversation in this
Yeah.
story here.
But
Yeah.
my,
So-
But didn't the medium also see?
Because when she saw it, it's like,
She was like, wait a minute.
You're Saul.
Yeah, that's
right.
That's why-
After bringing up Samuel.
that story kind of tripped me out. Like,
So I'm just saying, like, for people who may be watching or anyone here,
Even the context of the story kind of sets the precedent for answering your question, and it's not like a direct answer to your question. But first of all, it was a practice that is outlawed and stated by God in multiple locations, which we're gonna have to. I would have to dig it up, but we did study it the last time. That's why I could say confidently it's there.
We did.
Where it was stated several times that this is not something of God. God don't want nothing for us to have nothing to do with that.
But I don't know if that's the question.
Stay with me.
Okay.
God don't want us to have nothing to do with that. But what is his purposes? And again, we don't have the macro vision for it. He don't want us to have anything to do with it. So if we are engaging in that, whether it is real or not, we are other. Because we know better. So if that is happening, it's not happening in the context of a God-sanctioned thing.
Sure.
So if you want to engage in it, if you want to delve in it, if you want to talk about it, understand other. I told you only the courts should do that. And if you think it's a good idea because the oxen stumbling, because you need to hear from
Something.
your loved one, because you're unsettled about something, or whatever your justification is, know that you're operating outside of a God-sanctioned space.
very good point. And that was really, really good. The question now that you've cleared that up, because that clears up a lot for me. What about people? I'm not one of them, but then I do know people that maybe they aren't seeking it through a medium. Maybe they feel that they see their own loved one, or that they feel that loved one, where it's not necessarily through that of a medium. Then would you agree with the point then that I was saying is maybe my thought is that maybe the devil watches the whole story too, and that he could then present certain factors But because we know how God feels about the median, but then as far as the non-median, you know, if somebody feels like, look, I know I saw my son, you know, I felt that person, that could be a question.
One thought that comes to mind is Ecclesiastes chapter 9. And you can read from verse 3.
Hang on. Read Ecclesiastes.
Chapter 9. It's after Songs of Solomon. Psalms, Proverbs. Oh, sorry. Psalms, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, Songs of Solomon. So it's
Where
after
is
Proverbs.
Ecclesiastes?
It's after Proverbs.
Okay.
Thessalonians.
What was the chapter?
Chapter 9, verse 3.
You said Thessalonians.
I
3
think
to-
they did
to-
the rest of Thessalonians.
3 verse down to verse 10. What's up, Shari and Jerry?
This is the evil in everything that happens under the sun. The same destiny overtakes all. The hearts of people, moreover, are full of evil, and there is madness in their hearts while they live, and afterward they join the dead. Anyone who is among the living has hope. Even a live dog is better off than a dead lion.
Keep reading. You're going up to verse 10.
For the living know that they will die, but the dead know nothing. They have no further reward, and even their name is forgotten. Their love, their hate, their jealousy have long since vanished. Never again will they have a part in anything that happens under the sun. Go eat your food with gladness.
Don't miss that part. Never again will they.
I didn't.
Will they?
I was listening.
What does your version say?
Oh, sorry. Can you
We're on
read
a
it again?
different one.
Read verse
Never
6.
again will they have a part in anything that happens under the sun.
Keep reading.
Go eat your food with gladness and drink your wine with joyful heart. That could be a question, but you know, we'll keep reading. For God has already approved what you do.
It was a Pinot.
Always be clothed in white and always anointed in your head with oil. Enjoy life with your wife, whom you love, all the days of this meaningless life that God has given you under the sun. All your meaningless days.
Wow.
For this is your lot in life, and that in your toilsome labor under the sun, whatever your hand finds to do, do it with your might. For in the realm of the dead, where you are going, there is neither working nor planning, nor knowledge of wisdom, nor wisdom. Yeah, and that's the one actually that we read, that the pastor read at my mom's funeral. And I mean, it's clear as day. So that's where I stand with it as well. But I do know that with instances like stories that we read where it goes into detail, with that story, to your point, it's clear that, to me at least, that was used to show how far gone he was, that he starts seeking those things. But that verse does, that we read it, because that does clear then up if somebody, you know, like, I feel like I saw my loved one. This clearly states it.
My thought is, you know, I'm not going to conclusively make a case, and this might seem a little heretical, but stay with me. I'm not going to conclusively make a case that there can't be or isn't crossover from one realm into the other. I'm not going to conclusively make that argument. To me, that is a non-argument. Not that it does exist, but I'm not going to argue for or against it. Right? My argument is, God said the people who engage in stuff that looks like that have nothing to do with it. And it says that when you die, you don't have any part on this side. And so opening the door to the conversation of the potential for that to exist is, the ark is stumbling. I'm talking
Well-
about from the posture of a believer.
From yes,
From the posture of a believer.
but not whether or not it exists. Whether or not it exists within who God is and
Correct.
sanctioned by Him.
Correct.
Yeah. Not existence.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
And unless you've crossed over to the other side, you can't really know for sure. And it really doesn't make no never mind if God said, don't even go there. Don't even touch the ark. You know what I'm saying? So,
Makes sense.
within all the valid justifications for considering it is, don't touch the ark. You ain't supposed to carry it. I have special people for carrying that. That is not your responsibility. Stay far from that.
Does that make sense?
You can be an example, Azam.
I mean, as you were
That's what
asking
you want.
for everybody else. Yeah.
And sometimes it's not, to me, it's not always necessary to answer the questions that are debatable or to even engage in the debate. Because there's no way to know for sure,
Sure.
you know? Unless,
Well, to your
you're
point-
living on the dark side.
Well, to your point, there's only one. I mean, the definitive statement is what the Bible said.
Right. The word.
And as a believer in Christ and God, that there's nothing else that need to be said.
But I think explaining it like you did the context of it is important too. Because what happens, you know, the word is the word. But there are different words in that then what's used, I think what people have is they take one word and they say, well, this says this, but this says against it. But without understanding that context and how the story was supposed to be interpreted, you know, how it was presented is important because then it doesn't change the word. And a word that's found in here isn't speaking against the word. The word is this. This was a word in a story, but not to trump that. So I think that context was important.
Not to get lost in that, because then you miss the story or the point of the story, and that was that he was off the deep end, so far off. And they have the, and I'm saying this because not everybody. I'm learning this now for myself that a lot of times we think of, well, at least I did. I thought of the Bible as some of the stories in the Bible as comprehensive. Seemingly comprehensive autobiographies or stories of people, not realizing that the author is making a point, and to make this point he picks this story and this story and this story because these stories make the point. And if I try to pass the stories, I miss the point.
That's the point.
And all of these are just illustrations to make my case. So if I'm now stepping back from the writing to understand what is he communicating and why did he choose this story and this story and this story to communicate his point, then I don't get as lost in the details of the story. And the details of the story are only relevant as far as it relates to the point of the story. And so now I'm reading it differently. And now I'm looking at different things and seeing different things.
Word.
And so that was helpful for me to be able to not wade off into the bushes behind certain ideas because it's irrelevant to the point that's being made.
Sure.
And you can't know for sure. And so you'll end up in a dark hole wondering about things that's not why I was telling you that. I wasn't telling you that so that you could worry about this. And I would hate for somebody to take, I'm trying to tell you a story and you start to wonder about whether people use in the bathroom or not. But that's not the point. Whether they had toilets. That's not the point. I wonder about that because you see all these stories and they never notice anybody going to the toilet in this story. And you know they don't have flushing and running water. Like Walking Dead. What them girls dealing with their period on the Walking Dead? And they don't ever bring it up. You know? But it's not a part of the story.
Right.
And if it was a part of the story, they would bring it into the story.
Right.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we'd question every single thing and then get off track from what the overall message.
Correct.
Good point.
I think the Bible is no different. And so that's just a tip for, because we're reading a lot of material and we're reading a lot of content, to me that's one of these conversations help us to make more sense of what we're reading when we go back there and keep us focused on the things that we need to be focused on. And that's not to dismiss the very valid questions, but to put them in their proper context. And then does it matter? If it was Samuel, if it wasn't Samuel, does it matter?
Right.
How does that affect the point? Knowing one way or the other. And so those are the things that we kind of have to wrestle with to be able to make sense of our Bible reading.
And to keep our mind on track.
Yeah, I want to stay and talk some more, but I know Anika lives far and Roland has to leave, so this is the point where we're going to do our takeaways. For those of you who don't know what we do here, we don't just have these conversations because we want to talk. We want these things to have applicable meaning to our lives. And part of the exercise is for each of us to articulate at least one thing that was beneficial in the conversation. So it wasn't just conversation for the sake of conversation. Because when you articulate it, you own it, you remember it, and you can take it with you, as opposed to just leaving it to mull around in your head. So I'm going to ask you online to please share in the various chats one thing that you're going home with that was valuable to you from our conversation tonight as we share. And then when we're done, I'm going to read the things that you shared. Did who wash their hands? What are you talking about?
About the bathroom?
See,
Oh, about all the yeah, in the shows.
Right.
I got it, Shari.
They soak
Thank
them
you.
so
That's a good question. Did they even wash their hands? I wouldn't have thought about that, but
So,
yeah, 'cause they have no soap. What did they do? You know?
Washing your hands makes you too clean anyway. Go ahead. What
Yeah.
were you saying?
And then they eat.
Yeah, I mean
uh,
that's why they're
dead
able.
already, right?
No, the people who are alive, who's living
I
in the
don't watch
post.
the show.
Yeah, I don't watch it.
There's no electricity,
they
except
enjoy
people
life
have
as they travel.
generators and they have water. You know, like how they managing?
I
And you have
don't even-
all these women. Like there's plenty of women in the show.
That's why it doesn't make sense.
And we wonder what the people do. Anyway.
But no one has a period on the show. Anyway,
Oh
She
my
said-
god.
Oh my gosh.
Sherry says, joking, don't get lost in the details.
See?
Stick to the overall
Shari's
thing.
takeaway
That's
is,
what you meant.
did they wash their hands? That's the takeaway. Anika, takeaway.
Obedience. Don't touch the ark.
Hmm.
God, obedience is important to God.
Hmm.
That's my takeaway.
Kenner?
same. Like it's like that one. So thank you, Z, because it was perspective. It's there's so many times that, so maybe not exactly, but it's all along the same lines. There's so many times that we expect mercy, and because we expect mercy, because I expect mercy at times, I'm more apt to do something because you got the forgiveness card in your pocket. Like, if you confess your sins, he's faithful and just to forgive you. So he's like, yo, so I got a little bit of room. And that's not what God requires. He requires obedience. So, yeah. So that's my takeaway.
Z?
Don't help God.
Anyone.
Because you could be an example. I'm like, really?
That's
Wow.
I'm not critical of takeaways. That's cool.
Look,
That's your takeaway.
here's my takeaway. It's mine. And I see people on the street and I'll be like, God, you have to take care of that.
That should be a t-shirt.
What's that?
That should be a t-shirt.
What was that?
Don't help God, because you're going to be an example.
Lorraine, are you making notes? Was she on tonight? Lorraine, are you on tonight? Please make a note of that. We added that to the list. Don't help God.
Do it.
You be an example.
You be an example. I'm telling you. Do it.
Roll it.
Oh, takeaway. I think we're on the same wave. Is like it's important to have a healthy level of fear for God, and I think David got it. Once he was reminded, he's like, "Oh," but I think having a healthy level of fear is important, and understanding who God is. Like even when Jesus was walking around, the devil was like, they knew exactly who he was and was terrified. And he talks to the storms and they calm down, the elements and everything. It's just having a healthy reminder of, though God is super loving and forgiving, like the devil is terrified of this dude. So let me think and let me remember, not let that overwhelm me where I'm like not going to him, but let me remember who he is, to know exactly who we're dealing with when it comes to certain things. So that's my takeaway. But I did want to say the other half of my takeaway, to say, can we congratulate Jared, Pastor Jared, officially? Congrats, bro.
Thanks.
I mean, I'm so excited for us, but that's my takeaway. Anyway.
Thank you. Thank you.
What's your takeaway, Pastor?
I had two
PJ.
takeaways. The first one comes from the girls, Janie,
Oh.
the singers.
The
two
singing
singers.
gals like
They have a song on one of their albums called "Don't Take My Kindness for Granted." I know the context is not the same, but the idea is sometimes we take advantage of God's grace and mercy and just assume that He ought to give us mercy.
I never got through that album.
I think that one is Saturday night. Saturday night is the album. And this is because at that time I was heavily into building the biggest music collection in the world. I was trying. Anyway. And then my second takeaway is one of the points that Kenrick brought out about not, because we don't have the benefit of God's perspective, it's not necessarily my place to try and question what and why and how. I just need to trust that he saw it, he thought about it, and given all the things that he considered, he felt this was the best course of action, and okay. Because he's wise, he's supreme, he's all-knowing, he's a sovereign. I trust you. And then when I have a chance to talk to you, we could talk one-on-one, you could show me why you thought this was the best thing to do. But because I trust you, I'm going to just say, okay.
That's why I said I need to go to heaven
You can do now.
and ask. No, you
You
can.
can ask.
No, ask.
Leah says,
Can't ask him.
her takeaway is it's okay to wait until God responds. I don't have to be the alternative. He has a plan A. Or he has a plan A. Shrika says, takeaway, don't expect God not to act on his word. Kenrick is a thief. Laugh out loud.
But that was a TH, right? Not a
That's
okay.
thief.
Okay,
A
a
thief.
thief. Not a T.
But I think I'm missing a part of what Shrika is saying because she put speech in brackets.
Speech from what Roland was saying.
Oh.
Yes.
Jay-Z style, of course.
I missed it. What?
Explain.
What?
The speech from what Roland was saying.
The pastor said.
Your congrats.
Oh. What she was saying for me to do a speech.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I got it now. Thanks. All right.
That's big.
Technically, pastors don't give speeches; they give sermons.
No.
No, that's big.
They're called sermons.
Like,
Shari
I'm
says,
super-
that's right, Roland. Put respect on God's name. And Shari's adding something about writing another book. Shari, because you talked about writing,
Well, you
I'm
introduced Zane.
I'm not going to. Oh, yeah. Okay. My God,
Like
now.
that's
I'm all over the place.
yeah.
Well, I want to say, first of all,
Before you say, first of all, we're just gonna continue in our congrats to
Hey,
Jared.
Pastor Jared.
oh, man.
PJ. Hold on, I didn't know. I'll contribute
Baby-
after.
with the
we
baby
need
blue?
some help coming.
Oh, thank you.
I didn't know it was coming.
Am I to open this right here, right now?
Go for it.
He's like, oh man.
Oh man.
Well, so can you so Jerry's a pastor now.
Yeah, that's what we're congratulating him on.
He was a pastor before, but now he's
Right.
official.
It's official, yeah. He's our pastor. And he's in Grow Group 15. Shout out.
What?
On
What are you
5.
talking about? He's in 13.
He's in 15.
was the last
Hold
time?
on, Jared.
Jared's in
What's going on, Jared?
So he's
Multiple
also an
kids.
adulterer.
Like, we claimed him in 13.
Oh wow.
Dominic was here.
Oh wow. Oh,
That's-
this is special.
That's,
Oh,
that's
that's
tight. Can we show the people?
that's nice. That's
This is
nice.
Pastor Jared
Renault.
Renor Taylor. I didn't know that was your name.
Okay.
Now
So those who
everybody-
may not be aware, the last 2 years I've been on a journey trying to submit to the will of God, and He's opened the door for me to be in full-time ministry as a associate pastor. It's by unconventional means, which to me just kind of demonstrates that this is His leading and not my doing. Today was my first day officially in that role. And so I'm excited to share this this evening with you in this new role, and I'm excited to have particularly the people who are on the couch today, because you all contributed to me staying steadfast on the journey and holding me accountable and encouraging me and inspiring me and giving me motivation to continue. I guess afterwards I can get into the specifics of how, but I wanted to be general because I'm really trying to help Roland get back to his wife.
Well, right, everything you just said right back at you too, man. Because as long as I know you, you've inspired me, helped me. You know, some of the questions that I have is not like, no, it was more thought provoking. Like, let's look together deeper and walk through it together. I'm excited for us. I'm excited for you.
I'm excited as well. I'm also understandably nervous, and I had an interesting day today. It was because today was also my last day on my job, so I felt like the best way to describe it is Elisha, who was farming in his land, and Elijah came and said, let's go. And he said, okay. He went and he broke up the plow so he couldn't go back to plowing. He killed his oxen. He used the wood from the plow to cook the oxen so that he could not go back, and decided to walk this journey. And so that's kind of how I feel right now. And so it's a little, I wouldn't say it's not scary. It's not scary at all, because I'm confident that this is where God is leading. But transitioning from one way of life that you know all your life into something else, there's a feeling there that I have not found the word to describe just yet. But, so yeah, that's where I am.
Cool.
But I thank you guys for sharing this with me tonight and for this awesome gift. This is whose idea was this?
It's not important.
I didn't contribute to it. I'm about to raise my hand and take credit.
Yeah,
Nobody's gonna take
go-
credit.
There
It
you
was
go.
me.
But
Nobody's
thank
gonna
Only one
And
advice.
what difference does it make to the story?
Yes, good point. Good point.
Well, depending on who it
Who it
is,
Right.
I mean, it could add a lot of
Yeah, understand?
details to your story.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, depending on who it is.
Congrats again, though, man.
Thanks.
Might be another kid. Sorry. That was, I mean, that's probably a detail that you don't. Never mind. Not all details.
Oh yeah, and then I didn't want to just mention the people on the couch. There are a couple of people specifically in the chat tonight, who are also people I
Christina.
want to acknowledge in the
she's
journey.
still Yep, she
I'm
said I'm still here.
Coming.
She can't say I wasn't here.
Sharika, Shari, Mike, in particular, even Leah. Thank you for your contributions. I'm gonna get to you individually and talk more specifically, but I just want you to know that I appreciate you guys. All right. I'm not good with the mushy stuff. I try to skip over it as quickly as possible, so let's pray. And I have to pray. Oh,
Yeah,
Z.
I have to pray for
I
Ozzy?
think.
No, you're a pastor now. You're gonna be praying a lot. You don't need to pray.
I feel like we could christen it.
You have to pray for us.
I have to pray for Ozzy?
That's a good idea, Kevin. I like that.
I'm going to pray for Ozzy.
Pray for us, others.
You gotta do it right now, though.
For us.
Asha says, her takeaway. God said, "My ways are not your ways, and my thoughts are not your thoughts. Therefore, just obey. Don't put our thoughts into why or why not it seems right or wrong to us." So I
Word.
wanted to include that in our conversation. Thank you, Asha, for sharing. Z,
Yes.
the prayer is yours.
My cousin said you didn't read her takeaway.
Oh,
Who's your cousin?
Keisha.
Keisha, where's her takeaway?
she's about to come up
Keisha
here.
said he didn't read my takeaway.
Where is it?
Is it a
'Cause
different-
my thing
is it
may have
different
refreshed
chat?
and I may have missed it. Is there a takeaway from Keisha in there?
Keisha
Yeah.
on Facebook.
Is it on Facebook?
Keisha, did you hit send? Just kidding. Don't come up here for me.
Pastor Graham says Youth Pastor Kenrick.
Oh my gosh. Somebody cut his connection.
Is there any?
Keisha.
She's on Facebook because my list it refreshed and so I only have like
Tell her to
handful
text
of-
it to you.
I did already.
Oh, okay. All right.
Well, can you read it for me?
Probably waiting on
Oh,
it.
she hasn't texted it. She's going to text it.
I'm waiting for her to send it to me.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, Keisha. It wasn't intentional. It just didn't show up on the limited feed that I have, and I thought I caught everything.
Okay.
Keisha and I pull him?
No, I don't see it.
Okay. Well, hopefully.
Shout out to Vanessa.
We'll pray.
behind the
Hopefully, it'll
scenes.
come while we pray, and then we'll add it in afterwards.
Okay.
Shout out to Vanessa behind the scenes working the cameras on the ones and twos. Vanessa's on the ones and twos while juggling, baby. All right, let's pray.
All right, let us pray. Father God, thank you so much for allowing us this time to get to know you more. We always discover something more about you. We thank you that you are consistent with your mercy and your grace. We ask, Lord, that you help us not to take that for granted, but to be more obedient to you and to listen to your voice. We thank you for Pastor Jared, and we thank you for his family. We thank you, God, that he's been obedient. So, Father God, help us to stay obedient. Give him strength, Father God. Give him wisdom, and help him to stay focused on you. We ask that you be with us as we go our separate ways. Help us to stay at your feet. Forgive us of anything that we have done against you. This we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Oh, she said you read it.
I did. Oh, she was in the other chat.
No, she said you read it.
Okay, cool. All right. Sorry, I didn't mean to overlook anybody. If I did, text it to me. Oh, I can't give you the number. Inbox it to me on Facebook. Yeah.
Yeah, your phone is about to get blown up now, Pastor Jared.
Inbox it to me.
You about to be ringing. You about to be like Graham.
Thank you guys for joining the conversation. We are here every first and third Friday of the month. Next Friday that we are here is the 16th. Friday the 16th.
The 16th.
No,
No,
15th.
the 15th.
Friday the 15th of June. And so join the conversation. Also, download the reading plan if you don't have a copy already. If you just want to get into the word, it's a great reading plan. I'll take you to the road. If you have begun with us in January, you're almost halfway through the entire Bible. I think you're a
That's
little bit
crazy.
more than half through the entire Bible right now.
That's crazy.
Yeah?
Yeah, that's great.
That's awesome.
Because we've read Psalms twice now.
Mhm.
Yeah, when the second go round of
Second
Psalms.
round.
I have a friend that's actually really interested in. I'm giving it to him tomorrow.
Sweet.
Deontay.
There's a free app.
Give him one.
Free app. You don't have to pay anything. And it sends you a reminder every day to just ask you if you spend time with the Lord in the Word. You know? And you have multiple versions and multiple languages in the app now. So if you want to read in Japanese or Creole, French, Spanish,
Zulu?
Korean. No, we don't have Zulu yet, but we can make that happen.
Yeah,
If you can point us in the right direction to get the Zulu Bible online, we'll add it.
patois. That would be hilarious to read in Jamaican.
Share it with a friend. The idea is just to get people active in the Word and doing it together so we can all see it together and share these kinds of experiences. It becomes a part of our conversation. Alright? Alright. Roland needs to go, so till the next time.
You keep putting it on me.
Drink up.
Drink. You're like water when I'm thirsty. Drink. Like water when I'm thirsty. Drink. when I'm thirsty. Drink.
This is water for the thirsty.
Water for the thirsty.
Water for the thirsty.
Water for the thirsty. Drink up.
Drink up. Hashtag Instagram, Facebook. We all there. Follow us. Tweet us. I have a mic on right now.